My wife's shocking betrayal. During our 13th anniversary. It was supposed to be a celebration of our 13th wedding anniversary, a testament to our love and commitment. Yet, amidst the glowing candles and congratulatory toasts, I saw her, my wife, leaning into another man, her hand lightly brushing his shoulder as she whispered something that made him smile. My heart dropped, not because of the gesture itself, but because deep down I knew what it meant. Let me take back to you how it started. 13 years ago, I was just a man with a dream, and Sarah was the woman who made it feel achievable. We met during a community volunteering event, painting a local youth center. Sarah was vibrant and full of life, her laughter echoing through the hall as she accidentally splattered paint on me. We clicked instantly, and soon we were inseparable. I grew up in a modest household. My parents worked tirelessly to provide for me and instilled in me a sense of loyalty and perseverance. Sarah's upbringing was different. She came from a family of wealth and privilege. Despite her affluent background, she was down to earth, which is one of the reasons I fell in love with her. After a whirlwind courtship, we got married in a small but heartfelt ceremony. The early years of our marriage were filled with love and mutual respect. We faced challenges, of course, career struggles, financial hurdles, but we always leaned on each other. Sarah was my partner, my confidant, my best friend. As the years went by, our lives became more stable. I built a successful career as an architect, while Sarah started her own event planning business. We had a rhythm, a partnership that seemed unshakable. But somewhere along the way, things began to shift. The spark that once defined our relationship began to dim. It wasn't a dramatic change, more like a slow erosion. We became busy, too busy perhaps, and started taking each other for granted. Our conversations grew shorter, our time together scarcer. I noticed Sarah becoming more distant, but I chalked it up to stress. Her business was thriving, and I was proud of her. She was constantly networking, meeting new clients, and working late nights to organize extravagant events. I never doubted her loyalty. Why would I? We had built our lives together, weathered storms, and celebrated victories. She was my wife, and I trusted her implicitly. To celebrate our 13th anniversary, I planned a party to honor our years together. It was meant to be a surprise, a way to rekindle the bond we once had. I invited close friends, family, and colleagues to join us in celebrating our journey. The evening started beautifully. The venue was adorned with fairy lights and floral arrangements, a nod to Sarah's exquisite taste. Guests mingled, shared stories, and raised their glasses to toast our marriage. But then I noticed her. Sarah stood in a corner away from the crowd, engrossed in a conversation with a man I didn't recognize. He was tall, sharply dressed, and charismatic, the kind of man who commanded attention without even trying. At first, I dismissed it as a harmless interaction. Sarah was naturally sociable, and her line of work required her to be personable. But as I observed them from across the room, I felt a knot form in my stomach. She laughed at his jokes, her hand brushing his arm in a way that felt too intimate. The look in her eyes wasn't one of casual friendliness, it was something deeper. After the guests left, I couldn't hold back any longer. I confronted Sarah as she sat on the edge of our bed, scrolling through her phone. "Who was that man?" I asked, my voice trembling despite my efforts to stay calm. She looked up, startled, before quickly composing herself. "Just a client," she said, her tone dismissive. "A client? Really? Because it didn't look like that to me. You were practically glued to him all night." Her eyes narrowed, and her expression shifted from surprise to defensiveness. "You're being ridiculous, Mark. It was just a conversation. Why are you making this a big deal?" "Because it is a big deal," I shot back, my frustration boiling over. "You were flirting with him, Sarah. Don't deny it. I saw the way you looked at him." She didn't respond immediately, and for a moment I thought I saw a flicker of guilt. But then she crossed her arms, her lips tightening into a thin line. "You're imagining things. Maybe if you weren't so busy with work all the time, you'd see that I'm trying to hold this marriage together." Her words hit me like a slap. The accusation, the deflection, it was as if she was trying to shift the blame onto me. The days that followed were a blur of tension and unspoken words. Sarah and I drifted further apart, our conversations reduced to curt exchanges about mundane matters. The trust that had once been the cornerstone of our relationship was now shattered, replaced by suspicion and resentment. One evening, unable to take the silence any longer, I decided to dig deeper. I accessed Sarah's laptop while she was out, searching for answers. What I found confirmed my worst fears: emails and messages between her and the man from the party. Their exchanges were flirtatious, laced with inside jokes and plans to meet in private. My heart sank as I scrolled through the evidence of her betrayal. The woman I had loved and trusted for over a decade had been hiding a part of herself from me. The realization was like a punch to the gut, leaving me breathless and broken. When Sarah returned home that evening, I was waiting for her in the living room. The laptop sat on the coffee table, the damning emails and messages open on the screen. My heart pounded as she walked through the door, her cheerful demeanor fading the moment she saw my expression. "We need to talk," I said, my voice steady but laced with pain. She hesitated, her eyes darting to the laptop. For a brief moment, I saw panic flash across her face before she forced a calm, almost indifferent expression. "What's going on?" "You tell me," I replied, gesturing toward the laptop. "I found these. Care to explain?" Her face paled as she stepped closer, her gaze fixed on the screen. She didn't deny it. She didn't even try. Instead, she let out a long sigh and sank into the armchair across from me. "Mark, I'm sorry," she began, her voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't mean for it to go this far. It just happened." "It just happened?" I repeated, my voice rising. "You've been lying to me, sneaking around behind my back, and all you can say is that it just happened? Do you have any idea what you've done to us, to me?" "I know I messed up," she said, tears streaming down her face. "But you have to understand. Our marriage hasn't been the same for years. We've been drifting apart, and I—" "Don't you dare put this on me," I interrupted, my anger boiling over. "I've been here, Sarah. I've been committed to us, to this marriage, even when things got tough. But you? You chose to betray me instead of talking to me, instead of trying to fix what was broken." Her silence spoke volumes. She didn't fight back, didn't argue. It was as if she knew there was nothing she could say to justify her actions. In the days that followed, I wrestled with my emotions. Part of me wanted to forgive her, to believe that we could rebuild what had been lost. After all, 13 years is a long time to throw away. But the betrayal cut too deep, and the trust that once bound us felt irreparably broken. We sat down to talk about the future, and for the first time in weeks, our conversation was raw and honest. Sarah admitted to feeling neglected, to craving the attention and affection she felt she wasn't getting from me. I listened, trying to understand her perspective, but it didn't make her actions any easier to accept. "I still love you, Mark," she said, her voice trembling. "I know I've hurt you, and I'll do whatever it takes to make things right." "I love you too, Sarah," I replied, my voice heavy with emotion. "But love isn't enough. Not anymore." We agreed that divorce was the only path forward. It was a painful decision, one that left us both in tears, but deep down, I knew it was the right choice. Staying together would only prolong the pain, a constant reminder of what we had lost. The divorce process was as messy as one would expect from a marriage built on 13 years of shared memories, possessions, and dreams. We divided everything equally: our home, our savings, even the little trinkets we had collected over the years. Sarah received half of my assets as part of the settlement, a bitter pill to swallow given the circumstances. But what hurt the most wasn't the financial loss. It was the realization that the life we had built together was now reduced to legal documents and court proceedings. The woman who had once been my partner, my confidant, was now a stranger sitting across from me in a lawyer's office. In the months following the divorce, I struggled to rebuild my life. The house felt empty without Sarah, a constant reminder of what I had lost. Friends and family offered their support, but the pain was something I had to face on my own. I threw myself into my work, using it as a distraction from the loneliness that threatened to consume me. Slowly but surely, I began to find my footing again. I started going to therapy, which helped me process the betrayal and learn how to move forward. Looking back, I realized that our marriage had been unraveling long before Sarah's infidelity. We had both made mistakes, allowed the pressures of life to drive a wedge between us. But while I had chosen to stay and fight for our relationship, Sarah had chosen a different path. Despite everything, I didn't hate her. I couldn't. She had been a huge part of my life, and for many years she had made me happy. But I knew I deserved better. I deserved a partner who would stand by me, who would value the love and commitment I had to offer. It's been over a year since the divorce, and while the pain hasn't completely faded, it no longer defines me. I've started dating again, taking things slow as I navigate this new chapter of my life. I've also reconnected with old friends, rediscovered hobbies I had long forgotten, and started building a future that feels full of possibility. As for Sarah, I heard through mutual friends that she's still running her event planning business and doing well. I don't hold any ill will toward her. I hope she finds whatever it is she's looking for. Life doesn't always go the way we plan, but it's in those unexpected twists and turns that we find our strength. I may have lost a marriage, but I've gained a deeper understanding of myself and what I want from life, and for that, I am grateful.